I certainly appreciate the comments of my colleagues that spoke ahead of me, but I do rise to offer a different perspective. And I just want to start by saying that I certainly don't believe that the people that were charged and sentenced and killed based on their conviction of witchcraft were guilty of witchcraft. However, I also don't know anything about their trials. I don't know anything about the charges that were levied against them. I don't know anything about the people that were involved in their convictions and so forth. I know nothing about that. And for me, that's the issue I have with this bill, which is that if I had a complaint about this chamber and the government in general, it's that it moves with extreme arrogance at times. And to suggest that somehow we know something more and better than other people in different places in different times is troubling for me. If this had been a resolution simply condemning the notion of witch trials, I would have supported it without hesitation. But the fact of the matter is, this is a document that is written to overturn trials in the past. And maybe at quick glance you can simply say these trials obviously were illegitimate because they were about witchcraft and these people could not possibly have been guilty and therefore we must exonerate them. And maybe even that's true. But I don't know anything about it. And I don't feel like I'm in a position to be dictating to anyone in the past, present, or future in a way that diminishes whatever role they played in our history. I want to say I'm very, very thankful that this bill starts off in the very first sentence by saying, whereas the courts in the early British colonies. And that's important to me because it's very important to note that this did not happen in America. Not that we are without sin or that terrible travesties have not happened in our country since 1776. But this particular issue has nothing to do with this country. And I would correct both of my colleagues who spoke earlier when they said that we made a mistake and that we are sorry. And they can certainly be sorry, and we can lament anyone who's passed in history or was wrongly condemned or convicted, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when we as a body choose a point in history and to suggest that somehow we know better without any of the facts, for me, is more than just rewriting history, it's relitigating history. And I'm not prepared to do that because the moment you begin on this path, where does it end? Will we be back next year litigating Attila the Hun and the atrocities committed by him? Will we be back here, talking about any other event in history? And what concerns me is that I somehow connect this document and what we're doing here with a movement that is happening in our country that I find very troublesome. And that is the desire to paint this nation as somehow an evil nation that was born out of racism and evil. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. Certainly slavery existed. Certainly there were injustices, terrible, terrible injustices in the formative years of our nation. And it took many, many years to correct those, and we're still working towards that. And that's what America is. America is the desire to get to that perfect place. Thomas Jefferson wrote those words in our Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal, and that we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And he truly believed, whether his actions directly indicated it or not, I think he believed that we could get to a place where all people were indeed treated as equals. And many of our founders worked towards the abolition of slavery. The Republican Party was founded on the concept of ending slavery. Abraham Lincoln was elected president of the United States for this singular purpose of getting rid of slavery. Hundreds of thousands of people died in that process. Should we go back and relitigate everything that happened between that period and now? I think we should keep that history. I think we should review that history. I think we should revere that history. But I don't think we should go back and try and relitigate it. We were not there. We do not know what the circumstances were, and I think it's wrong. In fact, I think it's arrogant, as I mentioned, and childlike to suggest that somehow we have a right to dictate what was right or wrong at periods in the past that we have no knowledge of. And I don't want to see bills that rightfully or wrongfully attempt to paint America as a bad place with a bad history. I want us to focus on where we're going, which is a brighter and better future. And I don't want to see anyone try and put a stain on the country that I love. I can't support the resolution simply because it is a resolution that names certain people. And while on one hand you may be exonerating people, but you're also condemning other people in the past. And maybe rightfully. But I go back to my opening point, which is I don't know. I would not dare to suggest that I know any better because I've not studied these folks. I certainly wasn't present, and none of us were. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Will you remark further, Senator Lester?